So it feels like we got to make one of these videos every so often, especially since Verdansk has come back. The first month was pretty solid, but since then it feels like there's kind of a content drought. The wheels have kind of fallen off on Warzone, and there's a lot of issues. It has been almost 2 weeks since I uploaded the Black Ops 7 trailer teaser reaction, so I thought I'd kind of catch up and give you kind of an idea of what's going on with the channel and what's going on with Call of Duty. And ideally, I'd like to post daily, and even though I know people would be all for me roasting Call of Duty daily, I don't really enjoy that style of content on the regular. But since it has been almost 2 weeks since I uploaded, I thought I'd kind of give an update, state of the game, and kind of where things are at. We got like 10 days until the mid-season update, because I don't think it's going to be this week. They would have already mentioned it by now, last week or some point. And one of the main points is I think the game isn't doing bad for Call of Duty. I think Black Ops 6 is a little been a content drop for a little bit. Obviously, zombies didn't get a new map this season. Kind of all they got was grief. So on that side, the numbers I'm sure have dipped. But on the Warzone side, everything I'm hearing from people that work there and from other people that leak stuff that talk to people who work there, it sounds like Warzone's doing fine number-wise. And that kind of sucks to hear in a way, because it's like, well, it doesn't feel that way because of the way the content has been rolled out and the things that they've done. Whether we had the Battle Arena event, everyone's like, where's John Wick? Why do we have so many weed skins? Now we got a Beavis and Butthead bundle that's coming, which kind of looks like it's teasing some LTMs that'll be a little bit cell shaded. And that probably goes for multiplayer, zombies, and Warzone, but we'll see when that content drops, since they haven't really talked about it. One of the things that has been really interesting is that for a few weeks now, people have been complaining that there's no solos in the game. And there's no trios. This is something that we've mentioned multiple times in multiple videos. And for whatever reason, they've kind of stuck to this casual mode for quads and also for solos, with no real solos available. And initially we thought, hey, you know what? Maybe this is going to come back. And then they put out another playlist that added on another week. And it was like, oh, okay, what the heck? You guys aren't going to make a statement that solos casual has been more popular than we expected or anything like that. So no awareness around it. And I think that's led to a lot of issues. So much so that the following week on the 18th, when that playlist update was supposed to roll out, nothing was posted and nothing was said. And we essentially kept the same playlist. And this tells me that they know that those will get negative reactions, negative response. So they just rather not say anything, because the numbers on their end are probably speaking for themselves, or they would make some course correction. So keep in mind that if you're watching this video, if you're on Twitter and you're in the comments, you're a hate watcher, whatever you are in the COD community, we are not the majority of the people that make up the player base. It is the people probably playing casual, boosting up that number, being on the game longer, buying battle passes, and buying skins that are relatively overpriced for a first-person game, at least in my opinion. And then we got the issue with the World Series of Warzone. Big tournament happens every year. They always announce it super late, but there was an in-game open qualifier, which is the second year they've done it. Complete mess. Hacked up, cheater show, everyone all full up on the leaderboard, full of cheaters and full of people hacking with tons of clips and all kinds of nonsense. Obviously, they filtered through as much as they could, but there's still a lot on there, I'm sure, that kind of snuck through, and that were going out of their way to ruin people's games that were legitimately trying to qualify. And then there was all kinds of drama with admins and all kinds of other weird stuff that's going on with that. So that's a complete mess on that side of the game, but that's still only the 1% of players that even care about World Series of Warzone. So I can see why they don't really put a lot of effort into that. One thing that in particularly bothers me is the stale meta. I like that they've given us a few different weapons to use. We still know that the Krig is the main go-to, and you got a few different SMGs you can go with. LC-10's pretty solid, but they didn't really take any steps over the entirety of the season to give anything a buff. We're using the Krig C before the update. We're still using the Krig C now. Even a slight buff to another gun that maybe is on the fringe of being meta would have been nice to see, so you can kind of mix it up. And for anyone that doesn't want to worry about leveling another gun, the Krig C could still be viable, because you wouldn't nerf it, you would just buff other guns. And they've really missed the mark on this part. The SMGs have been really in a good spot since Verdansk came back, but the rifles are where they're still really struggling, and more varied snipers, which we talked quite a bit about. The other part is that they do these weekly chores, which are weekly events, they're calling them, but they're weekly chores because they're basically collect random items that spawn on the map if you do kill zombies or loot from chests, but it's going to be random, and you got to get a bunch of them to unlock a bunch of items that you'll probably not need, want, or use. So it doesn't really feel particularly satisfying unlocking anything because you're never going to use it. It's basically weekly chores, and this week was no different. With the Rivals event, we ended up streaming the entire unlock process so we can get the 3-round burst on the pistol. And that thing was complete garbage, so it didn't really feel all that rewarding. Again, we live streamed that overall in its entirety on YouTube, so if you can go ahead and check that out, as well as Twitch and Kick. But again, it's basically a mindless grind that doesn't feel rewarding at all. Last year, when we had these events with MW3, the events were sometimes better, sometimes the events were about the same, because we did have some collectible and some XP stuff. But there were those other ones where you had to do specific challenges that would modify the way you played and those types of things. And I think we've only gotten maybe one of those events this year, maybe two. I'm trying not to misremember. But the events as a whole, they still had all the junk that we're used to, XP tokens, blueprints that you'll never use, stickers. But every event last year had one or more camos. And I know there's people in the comments like, I don't care. I unlocked the mastery camo. I'll never use one of the other camos. You get tired of using the same camo over and over, even though they look cool. It'd be nice to have some variety that are universal. And there's so many good ones we got last year that people would always comment, what is that camo? How'd you get that camo? And it's like, well, I just played the game and got it, cool camo from doing an event. Even though it is teased that they're going to add some more prestige tile camos that we got kind of like with MW3, but for BO6 weapons. So overall, mindless grind, completely terrible system. And then we've also had BO7 news, which obviously we got the teaser. Then later on, they had the COD pod where they confirmed a few things for us. They said that Avalon isn't going to be a new Warzone map or anything like that. It's for well, they didn't say that specifically. They said it's going to be for the co-op campaign. Cool. There's not gonna be any wall running or jetpacking, which still opens the door for wall jumping, which has kind of been leaked for a little bit here. And the game's not gonna be too futuristic because it takes place in 2035. We just played through Black Ops 2 campaign on stream as well recently this past week. It's not gonna be much more futuristic than that, and that was one of the greatest CODs of all time. From campaign, zombies, and multiplayer, it was just one of the most goated CODs of all time. If you missed out, unfortunate. I think they're supposed to bring that to Game Pass at some point. Now that we know that, the really big red flag that hopefully we get information about soon is how things are going to integrate with Warzone. Because for the longest, we were talking about separating the games, and it seems like that would be the ideal way to go, so we don't get a huge mix-up every time and have to do all these craziness. Warzone can kind of be a standalone game, and maybe we just integrate weapons, and that's kind of as far as it goes, operators, whatever. But weapons, at least, create a class, they'd have to figure that part out, because obviously if things change, they'll have to figure that out. But that's kind of where we're at right now. We're kind of in a content drought, which is fine. If you wanted me to upload, I hate this game every single day, or try out this new piece of trash weapon that's somehow the meta today and it one-shots or whatever nonsense, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to shield bundles either. So I'm sorry. It is what it is. It's kind of where we're at. And I'll post content when there's content. Otherwise, I'll be live streaming and checking out other games because there's plenty to choose from on my backlog of catalog games, and still prepping for the Destiny 2 update, which should be huge in July. We'll kind of see where that goes. So hopefully you guys are enjoying whatever you're playing. If it's Call of Duty, sorry. I wish there was more content to be had in the game. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.